Hello, I'm Paul Pluta and welcome to Paul Pluta Prestige. Today I'd like to talk about the Rolex OysterQuartz, and this here is a very special model here. This is the 17000, which is basically the steel version, and the 17000, I believe it was made up until about early 2000s, even 2001. And it's probably, I think, probably the nicest of the OysterQuartz there. There's the two-tone, which is model 17013, and there's also the day date, which is in solid gold. But for me, for my money, I've always liked the 17000, and there's a beautiful example you can see on the screen here. And, you know, many people shun quartz watches, but the OysterQuartz, it was a very special model for Rolex, and it's not just a cheap quartz watch. This is actually quite a highly engineered piece of kit, and I gotta say, you know, there's many things about it that I love. I love the styling on the bracelet. You know, it's like a very modern Datejust, and there was a model that used this case, and it had an automatic machine. It's very rare, Rolex, I must say as well. But generally speaking, this is the OysterQuartz case, and it's for a quartz piece. There's actually quite a lot of workmanship in it, and look, they're a lovely piece. They're sort of a genre in themselves, and I think the OysterQuartz itself is something that is going to be quite collectible, and once stock of them on the second-hand market dries up, prices have to go up. I mean, you know, it's one of these things. It's kind of funny, you know. It's like you look at say like vintage Ferraris, and vintage Ferraris. It's always the two-seaters. The 2+2s were always, you know, heavily shunned upon, and then suddenly, once the two-seater stock goes ridiculous, the 2+2 stock becomes more appealing. And I think the same thing with the OysterQuartzes. The OysterQuartz itself, once the stock dries up, it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I love them. I love the style of it. It's very 70s. You know, I really do love 70s chic. And I'm a huge fan of Gerald Gentry designs. You know, I've got the AP Royal Oak, the classic Royal Oak, and I've got to say the OysterQuartz, it's got a lot of styling cues from that time period, and I think they look great. I absolutely love them. And the only negative thing is, I've spoken to a few dealers in putting this video together, and they can be a bastard if something goes wrong with the quartz movement. And the problem is, you're really left to taking it into Rolex for a full service. So it's not something an independent watch repairer can really fix, because if you need a new circuit, well, you know, you just can't make one. It's not like a cog or a part. It's quite difficult. So yeah, that's the downside. And one dealer told me, he said, he's been burnt a few times with OysterQuartz. He said he doesn't want to touch them, and I can understand that. You know, I years ago, I had a 70s Patek that started to play up a bit. For some stupid reason, whenever I wore it, it lost time. But whenever it was on the shelf, it was fine. And don't exactly know why, but I think it was time to quickly flick that one. And that's exactly what I proceeded to do. But yeah, the OysterQuartz, it's very, you know, it's an interesting piece. And no, I just love it because, you know, you got these people who think they're experts. They say, "Oh, that's a fake one. The second hand's ticking, tick, tick, tick. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake." And you know, they're an instant expert. And you know, even though you're a watch dealer for 20 years, they know more. You know, this is just novices. They know more. And it's fake. It's fake. It's got the ticking second hand. And I mean, to simply have a piece that is real and has the ticking second hand. I suppose there's also the true beat as well, but it's just worth it as a gag. And okay, let's have a look at the scoring for the Oyster. Okay, for the brand itself, this is for the 17000. I'm going to give it a 7 for Rolex. For the importance of this model, I'm going to give it an 8 because it was a very important part of Rolex's history. For the movement itself, I'm going to give it an 8 because this is a lot of Rolex put a lot of work into that movement. The workmanship and finish, I'm going to give it an 8. And finally, the Paul Pluta Prestige rating, I'm going to give it a 7. So we tally it all up, we've got a score of 38 points. I'm Paul Pluta from Paul Pluta Prestige. I hope you've enjoyed this review on the Rolex OysterQuartz 17000.